Hello, guys. I hope you're doing good. Today, I want to talk about veganism. I was vegan for about 4 years, and I believe it was between 2015 and 2019. And I really didn't want to give it up. I remember at the time when I had made the decision I was going to eat some animal products again, I went into the supermarket and bought some Fridge Raiders chicken, which is like really processed, cheap stuff. But I was like, I'm just going to start with this. And it felt like I was committing a crime. When I was walking into that supermarket, checking out, I felt like this should be illegal. Because at that point, I'd conditioned myself to feel like this is just so wrong to support this industry or these industries as a whole. And like, all I'm doing is handing over money, and someone else is like killing this chicken so I can eat it. And at one point, I really, really believed that veganism was kind of the truth in terms of everyone's dying of heart disease and cancer. Maybe we're not supposed to eat meat. Maybe it's morally wrong, and therefore there's some kind of spiritual sign that until everyone stops this behavior, we're all going to keep dying of cancer and different diseases. And a lot of people have this idea now. A lot of people who are vegan really believe this is the correct thing for my health. They will quote different sources. And it can become very confusing. And I found myself very confused. And it didn't help that there were certain people like Tim Sheaf who I had looked up to and had inspired me in a way to go vegan in the first place. Did you hear that moped? I hear that every fucking day. And then he quit. And it was quite shocking to the online vegan community, which some of you might not understand that stuff, but it's kind of big. Like, this guy was the epitome of proving veganism is good for you. He was in a documentary that went on Netflix. I forget what it's called. Game Changers, I think. And they took him out by the time it went up because he was then no longer vegan. But he was one of those people that the community was like, look at this guy. You were saying veganism isn't healthy, and then he drops the bombshell. Is like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be vegan anymore. I don't feel well. I feel weak. I keep getting injured. I can't recover from injuries. I'm really doubtful of this. And it was very confusing as well, because while Tim was this really cool athletic guy that was going on like Ninja Warrior UK and like beating the shit out of everyone, all the competition, he was just this standout guy of like, this is an athlete. And he's always been an athlete before veganism anyway. But it's like, this guy proves that it works until it doesn't, I guess. But he'd gone a little bit strange. He had started to talk about drinking his own urine for health benefits, apparently. At one point, he went on a podcast and got the guy to drink his own piss, and you could tell the other guy was like, this is not something I'm going to do more than once. This is not something I'm on board with, but I've had you on the show before, and I guess we'll make it for some interesting content. And he was talking about the earth being flat, about Jesus, which, you know, some people might believe in religion, just not me. So he started to lose me a bit, and I started to think, can I trust this guy's judgment about this vegan diet? But then there were more and more people coming out, and I was feeling unwell. I wasn't feeling good. I was feeling worse than I had before being vegan, and my health had been a challenge prior, largely, as some of you will know, because of a drug called Accutane that I took at the age of 15. So my health's never really been great, which means I have to be careful because a lot of the symptoms I struggle with are with my digestion. And to be honest with you now, I have quite a lot of ice cream at the moment, and I know I shouldn't. Not just from a moral, ethical point of view, but from a point of view where my stomach's telling me, dude, I'm struggling to digest this. But I do have, I don't know if you want to use the word addiction to describe it, but kinda. I have a problem with eating. I eat far too much sometimes, and there's not really a day that goes by where I'm not cutting sugar out of my diet. Like, I've got a bit of an issue with that. So I know I shouldn't have dairy. I don't think anyone should have dairy. I think it's ridiculous to believe that we need dairy for calcium, and that you get these health warnings from doctors saying if you're going to go vegetarian or vegan rather, and you're not going to have dairy, you really need to take a calcium supplement. As if it's natural to drink breast milk from another species. It's fucking not, right? So, as you can kind of hear from me explaining this, I'm still conflicted. I'm like, largely on board with feeling like some of this stuff makes no sense to do, and yet we are all doing it. I mean, I buy almond or oat milk with my cereal, or if I have like, well, I don't really drink tea, but if I was to make a hot chocolate or something, I won't buy normal milk because there's this block in my head where I'm like, that's wrong. I know what happens to dairy cows, but then I will buy chocolate or ice cream or cheese. So it makes no sense. I also didn't go fully like fuck the animals. I was like, I'm gonna eat fish to begin with and a bit of chicken, and then I've had like beef since, or vegans would say that's a word that is used to hide what you're really having. I mean, people know what beef is, but I get it. It's like a bit weird that we say beef or pork instead of cow or pig. And maybe if you said it to a child, they'd go, a pig? Like Peppa the pig? Like, I don't want to eat that. Like, is this pig killed? Yeah, it's killed. Oh, that's kind of messed up. So veganism is typically saying everyone should stop eating all animal products. We can save the planet if we do it, and we can all live off, pasta, rice, vegetables, fruit. They run out of a few things because like there's a lot of things you can't eat. And in the beginning, I remember when I was vegan, it was like, oh, I can't have that, can't have that. But now it is quite good in supermarkets. There are a lot of options to advocate for veganism for people that want to do it. But what conflicts me still now, even though I have doubts about whether it's good health-wise to avoid eating animal products, or if you can run into a lot of different deficiencies, or maybe stuff we don't understand yet, because veganism has become popular, or more popular than it was. I think it's still like less than 1% of the population choose to be vegan. We don't really know. There's not like a big study necessarily that I'm aware of that shows long-term vegans and the outcomes for those people. I don't think these people are just going to avoid cancer and heart disease or every other issue, but maybe it works for some people. Maybe it does. There are some people where I'm like, I think you're still healthy. Like Joey Carbstrong, for example, I still watch a lot of his videos, which is probably why I'm filming this right now. I always looked up to him as someone who was just a good guy. I mean, some people might say, what, a good guy is in the one that had like a gun down his pants in Australia and got arrested, and he was in a gang and he stabbed people. But I mean, he's not doing that now, is he? The thing is, why I think I like Joey so much, and I still do, is he is a little bit hard to life. And it kind of goes against the grain. If you look at someone like Earthling Ed, he looks like a vegan. He looks like a hippie. And a lot of guys would look at him and go, I don't want to be like him. He looks a bit of a pussy, mate. But someone could look at Joey and go, well, if he can be vegan and care about animals, and he used to be a fucking gangster stabbing sheep, then, like, maybe it's not just this kind of on the fence, I don't know how to word it, like, namby-pamby thing, right? Like, a lot of people would think it is like, vegans? Yeah, bunch of pussies, mate. That kind of judgment is so stupid, by the way. But some people don't care about animals. They really don't. As you can see in some of Joey's videos where he's interviewing people on the street, he can show them what's happening, and it's disturbing, especially if it's the first time you're seeing it. And some people are like, so it's fucking chicken, I don't give a shit. Some people are cunts, basically. I don't think that should be the right response from anybody. And it used to really wind me up seeing that, because, again, I watched a lot of the content of what happens to animals, and you can't really say it's right unless you need to have them for health. I don't think anyone should sacrifice their own health, if that is the case, and I'm still unsure, because of an ideology, or because it would be nice not to hurt animals. Like, you wouldn't restrict a tiger from having meat in its diet. But humans are known to be omnivores, which should mean we can just live without meat. We can have it, but we don't have to have it. But there's still a lot of confusion, man. It's really actually hard to know what we're supposed to eat. It's pretty obvious we're not meant to eat food that comes in a packet with 25 ingredients on. But it's hard to know about the meat or non-meat, or like eggs and dairy and stuff. And again, with eggs, some people are like, well, what's the problem with eggs? Well, lots of stuff. But one of the main ones is that the male chicks that have to be hatched in order for, more chickens to be developed for the egg industry, if they're male, they're essentially useless because they're not genetically correct to be male chickens to become food. again, I think it's strange that we look at all these animals as food. Do you know what I mean? Like, I sound like a vegan now, but it is a chicken. It's an individual. It's not something we should just exploit to our whatever works for us. But yeah, the male chicks are ground up alive in a big blender. They probably don't feel it, but it just, you can look at that and say, this is not right. Like, by anyone's standards, this is not okay. It's murdering little babies. How the fuck is that okay? Or gassing them in a big bag or something. But it's weird for me because I'll be watching a lot of Joey's content lately where he's focusing on pigs because he did a documentary which is on Amazon Prime and I think justwatch.com or .org. He's put it on there for free called Pignorant about pigs in the UK, but really this happens everywhere now, where they're killed in gas chambers ultimately. And he investigates some farms as well. And he recently uploaded some additional content showing a breeding farm where these cows are not cows, where these pigs are in crates where they cannot move, at all. You've probably seen them, but they are disturbing. And I think with a pig, the reason I've never gone back to eating pigs is because they're kind of like dogs, but you could say that for cows as well. But their eyes are so like human and show emotion. They look really sad. And they should look sad in these environments because the environments, at least in the one I'm talking about now that I saw in Joey's video, disgusting. Like a horrific, dirty, smelly, shitty death pit where this pig is giving birth to endless offspring and some of them are just coming out dead or convulsing because they're not healthy. And then people are eating these animals that are grown in these conditions. And again, I'm saying people, I'm included. I'm eating chickens and cows, knowing that they've like been bred in these disgusting conditions feels like dirty. But it also, again, for anyone that can have compassion for an animal and imagine that animal is no different at all to a dog, but also not that different to us, you think this is just fucked up. Like, we're forcing these animals to give birth, killing their babies, often like, oh, this one's not growing quick enough. We're legally allowed to bash this piglet's head on the concrete to kill it. Like, all of this stuff, there's so many elements of cruelty along the chain before that pig becomes bacon, that when I see people mocking vegans or making a joke that I'm going to eat more bacon now, I think you are just a piece of shit. Like, regardless of where you stand on, I can't go vegan. I would not be able to live off hummus and that. I'd get so bored. And obviously there's more food than hummus, but like, you just think, I can't do it. I know it's wrong. I can see it's like cruel, but I just don't want to think about it. That is like a semi-normal reaction in terms of a lot of people would probably take that approach, especially if all of their family and friends eat meat. It would be very hard for them to be like, I'll go vegan, let alone like just vegetarian, right? Which vegans will say is not good enough, which I understand because I told you about the eggs. And with dairy, it's the same thing. Like, a lot of people just don't think about it, but obviously the cows have to be pregnant in order to produce milk. So they're constantly being artificially inseminated, or in other words, having a fist placed in their ass so that semen can be put in them. And that semen's not just appeared from nowhere, has it? Someone's had to wank off a bull. And then, oh, you've got a male calf. That's no good for the dairy industry. Shot in the head or exported over to Europe, somewhere like Spain, where they're going to eat veal. And that's got, again, there's so much like horror within this. So what is the solution? What if veganism isn't healthy, or you've tried it and you feel like shit? What are you to do? I don't know. I don't have those answers. I just live in a kind of disconnect, or not a disconnect. Like, I think about it every day. I quite enjoy eating the food I'm having, right? Like, I'm not eating the chicken going, oh, this tastes horrible, I hate this. But I had to cook, I chose to cook a meal the other day, a chicken pesto pasta with some tomato, some rocket, obviously pesto, which is like basil and pine nuts. And it was really nice. However, it was the first time ever, maybe, or in years actually, that I've handled like raw meat and had to cut it into smaller chunks of the chicken. And at that point, I'm like, this looks disgusting. Like when I go down a meat aisle and I see the raw meat and like a cut of leg off a lamb, I'm like, this is disgusting. You can imagine how I felt as a vegan seeing that. I was like, why would anyone buy this shit? There's literally people buying like a pig heart to eat. Jeffrey Dahmer's offspring. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should be vegan. Maybe if I'm not comfortable with handling meat until it's cooked and grilled and like has some flavor and is nice to enjoy eating, maybe I'm not allowed to be vegan without this guilt in my voice saying, you know, this is wrong. Or if I actively see a new video where it reminds me that this is really cruel, at least in the factory farming system, even though a lot of the stuff that I described doesn't only happen in factory farms. And most of the food does come from a factory farm because everything's capitalized on, isn't it? And a lot of the smaller farmers are paid off and then Tesco own them. Or it becomes part of a like fake farm identity where it's like, yeah, this comes from a farm. And if anyone has 10 seconds to do research, like, oh, well, that's just like a lie. That farm sounds nice. They've made it sound like a nice little free range farm, but there's just a lot of lies and marketing there. Am I still filming? 16 minutes, okay. So yeah, it's a dilemma because I can oddly look at a lot of the pig footage and be like, I'm so glad I don't consume that. But Joey might do another series on dairy or cows soon, or he has. Like I know it's wrong. And again, I can't fully justify it because if I'm arguing that, well, I think maybe some products I need to avoid deficiencies or because my stomach didn't agree with some of the alternatives that I was having, or soy made me feel like just off, like I didn't feel well. And I know some people say soy interferes with your hormones as a man, and some people say that's just bullshit. But clearly I can't argue that, well, I need this ice cream for my health. I need these chocolate chip cookies for my health. And the alternatives are often more expensive, often like double the price. If you want like some vegan chocolate, those Vigo bars, if you ever had them, are really nice, but they're really expensive. And maybe it should just be something that you have every now and then instead of like me every other day. Maybe you should just be eating apples and bananas. And that is one thing with veganism. You can suddenly discover there's a lot of different fruits and veggies out there. And obviously all that stuff is good for you to a degree. I think sometimes if you've got a sensitive digestive system, too much fiber and stuff like beans and legumes, they can cause a lot of issues. And when you're getting gas constantly, you're like, it's probably not a great sign. And insoluble fiber, in the name it's saying your body can't digest it. So should you be eating it? I don't know. A lot of confusion. So let me know your thoughts. Do you care from a moral standpoint, or would you only make a decision for your own health? A lot of people try veganism initially for health, but if that doesn't work, they will give up. But for me, the reason I stayed vegan and why it kind of resonated with me so much is because I'd learned to really love animals and see them as individuals, that it felt like I had no choice but to go vegan after what I'd seen. But after a while, you just, I don't know, if you're not regularly watching that kind of content, you can forget how bad it is, or you just have to focus on yourself if you're not feeling great and feel like, well, I'm a bit bored of this diet now. I've given it a real shot. I feel like I need to eat food that has been eaten for many years, for better or worse. But yeah, just watching, guys. Sorry it's a little bit long. I feel I've rambled a bit. I can't be bothered to edit it down because I'd have to get my laptop out, and that's too much work. See you later.